Okay, welcome back to another episode of Evo Inspires. I'm Joel Hayward and I lead the cybersecurity and infrastructure team here at Evolution Australia, working closely with technology leaders across regulated and high growth industries. Today, I'm joined by Haren Krishnadasan, a standout figure in the world of talent acquisition and people leadership. Haren has built his career scaling technical and non-technical teams for some very recognizable brands, including Microsoft, IAG, and for the last 11 years, Australia's largest bank, CommBank. His work sits at the intersection of talent strategy, organizational growth, and future capability, with a keen focus on how businesses attract, engage, and retain high-performance talent in competitive markets. Haren, good to have you, sir.
Hey, Joel. Good to be with you. Thanks for the invite.
No problem at all. Let's get straight into it with question one. Looking ahead 5 to 10 years, Haren, what capabilities do you believe will matter most in the work environment, and how should talent teams prepare?
Yeah. Look, it's a great question. And I'm assuming you're talking about capabilities that talent teams hire as opposed to capability of talent teams themselves?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, look, it obviously depends on the sector. So talent acquisition is pretty broad in terms of, you have talent acquisition teams that support lots of different areas. In the areas that I've supported over the, probably the last 10 to 15 years or so, or probably more actually, it's, technology has been the major focus. And, I've been doing quite a bit of work more recently in the product space and agile. So more and more organizations moved to agile skills. So with that, I think one of the key things to note is, I think, particularly in the fledgling Australian market in many ways, I think that agile capability is proving to be really, really important across multiple disciplines, whether you're a technologist, whether you're an engineer or data scientist, cybersecurity professional, or if you're a product manager or a product designer or whatever it is that you do. So across a lot of the areas that I've supported, particularly in the last 4 to 5 years, that capability has become really, really important. And look, the other one, the one that everyone talks about at the moment, if I didn't mention the word AI in a podcast, I'm probably living 10 years ago. Look, I think it's a really interesting one, AI skills, because what does it mean? There's technical and deep AI skills, people that are building AI platforms, and whether it's enterprise solutions or any type of solutions that integrate it into a commercial environment. But, what does AI skills mean for everyday people and everyday workers like you and me, and people in finance, marketing, and, what are those? And I think it's an important, it's more than a skill, Joel. I think AI is a mindset. There's some learning and training that I did recently is and it focused a lot on, not being afraid of AI, and not necessarily saying, you just got to embrace AI and just get on with it and all that, because I think it's very natural for human beings to be a little bit apprehensive about what is this new thing that I'm kind of almost talking to that's not human, and it's telling me what to do, or it's answering my questions and all those sort of things. It's more being curious and open. And I think if one of the skills that people need to have, and one of the key skills and mindsets that came out of that was what they called a learning mindset or a growth mindset. And, big tech companies are a big conduit of this, like Microsoft's and Google's and the Metas of this world, is ensuring that you have the right mindset to be open to new technologies, new ways of working, and how people interact with each other. So I think those are the key things, kind of that agile, that AI mindset, AI mindset, but learning mindset, and so on and so forth. Other stuff is very technical and deep, and I won't go into that.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic, Haren. And you've kind of touched on to my next question as well, which is, how do you think generative AI will impact talent acquisition over the next few years in terms of the opportunities and risks?
Yeah, it's a good one, and it's something that I've been thinking a lot about particularly over the last 12 months or so, as AI has really picked up speed. If you look at the adoption of a platform like ChatGPT, it's got one of the fastest adoption, like it's got the fastest adoption rate to hit million users, ever. And it's by a country mile, when you look at how fast even things like Instagram got to 1 million users and things like that. So that says a lot about how modern day society thinks about AI, I think, and generally their openness to using it. I've got a 17-year-old daughter who uses ChatGPT probably 4 or 5 times a day, probably more. She's doing a HSC. She uses it for studies. She uses it for when she goes out with her friends to ask her questions around, I'm going to this place, what can I expect? Where are good places to hang out? And then I've got a friend's daughter who uses it to actually pick out her outfits.
All right. Okay.
Right, which is going to a party or something. I'm going to a pool party with so-and-so people. What should I be wearing? And apparently ChatGPT can tell you. I haven't personally tried it, but I'm sure someone will tell me what it's going to be like very soon. But the reason I mention this and why I talk about this in relation to talent acquisition is because I think there's a lot of companies. So if you look at all the off-the-shelf platforms and products like Workday, which is tools that I've used recently, Workday's ATS systems, but everything from SAP systems to the all the different ATS systems that are out there. Everyone is trying to work on integrating AI into recruitment processes.
Yeah.
I haven't come across the tool yet, to be honest, and it's probably because I haven't deeply investigated it. I'm in the process of doing that, but I don't think anyone's found I hate to use the word, but like a silver bullet solution that automates and adds so much artificial intelligence into recruitment processes and talent acquisition professionals' ways of working, that it's really completely revolutionized talent acquisition. I feel like the way a lot of talent acquisition professionals are using AI at the moment is really around using everything from ChatGPT to Copilot. Copilot in their processes and things like that. But as more and more recruitment management platforms, or ATS, like applicant tracking systems and those type of platforms, and for people like yourself who work in recruitment consulting or agency space, as those platforms add more AI into their systems, I think that's when we'll really see transformation of work. So the way I would equate this to is I would work very closely in the engineering talent space, and if I started looking at how the engineers were working in the previous company that I was working for, that evolution happened like that. The amount of AI that was available and usable through platforms that they use every day, like GitHub or Stack Overflow or whatever, GitHub in particular, that really enabled them to completely automate how much code they needed to write. To the point now where, junior to mid-level engineers, the work they were doing in the code production that they were doing, it's essentially going to be done through a prompt.
Yeah.
So how does that then tie back to talent acquisition? I feel like there's lots and lots of opportunity for automation around, if you think about process-oriented work talent acquisition professionals do, which is, writing job adverts, posting job adverts, then screening, resumes against profiles or job briefs and things like that. But even, I think where the evolution is really going to come, and LinkedIn's doing some really interesting work around is how do you find passive talent? Right, imagine the space that you're in. You're probably not putting up an ad and going, "Oh, geez, can I find? I need to find a I need to find a penetration tester for a highly regulated, highly secure government organization or something like that." You're not going to find them through a job ad, right? So, I think those are the two types of evolutions. I think I feel like it'll start with low-hanging fruit, like job ad screening, all those sort of things. And then I think it'll become more and more advanced with like what LinkedIn's doing with finding passive talent, engagement of talent. I think where it gets really interesting and something we're looking at is how do you leverage AI for use on your talent pools and talent communities. So if you look at the most companies that have the most advanced way of thinking about talent engagement, and there's a few companies that do this pretty well. And, I think globally, Microsoft does this pretty well. All the tech giants, Google and, Meta and AWS to an extent. But, even locally, Atlassian and Canva in Australia. Yeah. And, I'm sure they're thinking about how do we leverage AI to engage talent and give people that are in their talent pools and talent communities something back while they are being qualified for roles on a regular basis without even sometimes talking to a human. So I think that's where the juice is, and that's where the really interesting stuff happens. So I feel like AI is a bit of a step. There'll be some low-hanging fruit processes. There'll be more complex ways of working in processes, and then, talent engagement, So I haven't seen anyone do it off the shelf out of a product. So if someone's out there that wants to have a chat to me about it, love to hear about it. Yeah. But that's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. I think the concept of AI across all industries, not just talent acquisition, is the fact that it will make some tasks and some roles obsolete whilst creating new ways of working, and it's just about people being adaptive and responsive to the incoming new ways, isn't it? But that's just very good, Haren. I'm really interested to know on this one as well. When it comes to measuring success in talent acquisition, what metrics do you personally prioritize and why?
Yeah. Different. Yeah, well, we've had lots of discussions around this in over the last 12 months, in particular, as the teams that I led and the function that I was part of went through a lot of change. And I think traditionally a lot of talent functions measured things like time to fill. So they tried to measure quality of hire. It's very difficult to do, to be honest. There's been kind of small school measures like, retention, like early retention. How do people leave within the first 6 months, 12 months? I think those days are kind of, you look at the local, you look at where the economy is at the moment, retention's pretty high for most companies. Even for highly skilled areas, retention's pretty high. So is that a really good, is that a good measure of quality of hire to say, just because someone's stuck with you for 6 months or 12 months, that means that they were a good hire? I don't think so. So, I think quality of hire, in my view, it will be a lasting measure, and finding how you do that is tricky. I think the more you can automate and engage hiring leaders in good feedback conversations, that's when you'll start getting some good quality of hire measures. So, lots of companies do hiring manager surveys and all that sort of stuff. I'm sure if you guys work with a client, you may do a survey after you make a placement or something like that.
Absolutely.
I think getting really useful, thought-provoking, tangible information via feedback post-hiring is really difficult, but I think that's really valuable. And I think organizations investing in doing that in a wise, thought-provoking way that's just not basically trying to hit a number over there that's somehow meaningful to that organization. Really give you rich information of how you can improve talent acquisition service is going to be very important. I think the other one is, candidate engagement is, I think will continue to be important. I attended a lunch round table with Indeed and HRD a few weeks ago, which was really thought-provoking. It was with a bunch of other talent leaders in different industries, which was really, really great.
That's good.
And everyone there were talking about, and I mean, it was very prompted by Indeed, because they were doing a lot of research on candidate experience recently and what modern candidates want, and in their expectations around wanting to, from the time they apply, within 2 weeks having an offer ready, and it's is that reasonable and all that stuff. And there were people from people from hotels that turned around processes really quickly, but there was people from government agencies that
took months,
sometimes a month, and you have to go through. And then there was a person from a tech company, who their process is a 6 to 7 step process. So there's no way it's going to happen in 2 weeks, right? Or it could, but it's rare. Yeah. So I think measuring candidate experience, like one of the ways, I'm a big believer in using things like NPS. I think Net Promoter Score. If organizations like, Apple, Prada, Lululemon use NPS to measure customer success, customer engagement, well, why shouldn't talent acquisition professionals use that to measure how well they engage with candidates? I think no matter how big your brand is, and I think this is one of the challenges for companies that have really strong brands that get hundreds and hundreds of applications, and they've got a different problem to companies that find it difficult to get talent or engage talent. I think candidate experience is important for everybody, because there will come a tipping point where, people, if you stop responding to them, you ghost them, or you don't give them, useful feedback to take away and make themselves better as a job applicant, or improve their skills to develop in their career. The respect people have for talent acquisition professionals. Yeah. I've heard a few people candidates tell me, geez, dealing with recruiters sometimes it's like dealing with used car salesmen.
Yeah.
And that breaks my heart, man.
No, of course, There's no relationship there.
Yeah, what we do is so much more impactful, profound, and important than that. Yeah. And so if you're in a position of privilege where you get to work in an industry where you're building careers or helping people find their dream job, you owe people more than that. So, my call out to all talent acquisition professionals, show some care for candidates. I know it's difficult sometimes, like even teams that I've led, sometimes they have, 30, 35 jobs in at one time, and it's hard to get back to everyone. But I always told my teams, I'd rather you if a candidate reaches out to you and a hiring manager reaches out to you, get back to the candidate first.
Yeah.
Yep, you got to get back to your hiring leader. Yes, they're your stakeholder. Yes, they're important. But get back to the candidates first, because they are the market.
Absolutely. Excellent. And to wrap this up then, a question which I ask quite often, and I think it's a good one to finish on, is what's one piece of advice you would give to yourself if you were just starting out on your career in talent acquisition?
Oh, geez.
Going back a few years.
Yeah, it's a great question. I've had a few people that are trying to enter the industry ask me this question sometimes. The piece of advice I would give myself, I would give, anyone looking to, join a career or create a career in talent, which I think it's a wonderful profession. I've enjoyed it so much, is know what you're getting into. Talent acquisition requires not only dedication and hard work like any other profession. I think some people think it's one of those white collar jobs that has low barrier of entry. So you get into it and you can really make some money out of it. And yeah, you probably could, but I think it's a very short term way of thinking about that profession. I think one of the things that what one needs to have is, some fortitude around, things like integrity. Working out who you are, why you want to do this job is really important. What's driving you to do this job, and it could be anything, and it could be financial needs as well. Which is, I'm not judging that at all. But what I do believe and think is that you really need to know why you're doing this job, because it can be a really tough job. Yeah. Because you get lots of no's, you get some yeses, you get a lot more no's than you get yeses.
Absolutely.
So I think that's important. I think it's important to ask yourself, do I have the level of empathy needed for this profession? I think it's really important. If it's a mindset and a characteristic, and if empathy is not on your radar as a skill, it kind of needs to be in talent acquisition, I feel.
Yeah.
So I'm really big on that. That's an important values trait that transcends no matter what the value of the company you work for is. And then the other one is patience. The third one is probably patience. You need to be patient to work with challenging hiring leaders. And when I say challenging hiring leaders, I don't mean challenging people and personalities. I mean, every single recruitment professional is going to come across a job at some point pretty soon early in their career that's going to be really tough to fill. And you need that patience to listen, be empathetic, and understand what it is that they're trying to look for and where do we need to go to find it. And you need the patience to innovate and research. Talent acquisition, especially in really specialized fields, it's a research-based job. You know, some of the best talent acquisition professionals I know are the best researchers that you'd ever meet. You know, they've got Boolean searches for this and that, and AI and stuff will help. You know, that'll make things easier. But that's really important.